everyone, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we're taking a look at Deluxe Class Chromia from Transformers Siege War for Cybertron Trilogy. Now, as you may be able to tell just from seeing her still in the packaging, it's kind of a slightly remolded and obviously repainted version of the same female Autobot mold from Power of the Primes. That was given to us as Moonracer and Firestar, or I think it was Nova Star because they lost the rights to Firestar, but she was Firestar in the original G1 cartoon. But it's been slightly remolded because they took out the Combiner Wars piece, or whatever you want to call that, the connection port that would make her either an arm or a leg. It's kind of a bummer that they did that. I understand that they're trying to lose that aesthetic for the Siege War for Cybertron trilogy, or just the War for Cybertron trilogy in general. But with the previous figures that were released, we got Elita 1 as the core, we got Moonracer, we got Nova Star, and it would have been nice to have her as a limb as well, because then you'd have 4 female Autobots, and then I guess just Jazz would hang out with them because you need a fourth limb. But in this case, she kind of fits in with them, but also can't be a limb, so that's kind of weird and interesting. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see once we get this one out of the box what I make of it. But first impressions, I love the blue. The color scheme looks great. Artwork of Chromia here on the side looks fantastic. Absolutely love that. And she's featured very prominently here in this kind of mural that's been on the side of all these boxes. So I think that's pretty cool as well. Not too much going on the bottom or the top. Turning around to the back. Robot mode, vehicle mode. And then they just show off some of the Battle Master weapons that you can use. All the figures can use these, so that's really nothing new. But let's go ahead, let's get Chromia out of the package here, and we'll take a closer look. So here is Chromia out of the packaging, and I will say right off the bat, it's a very light blue, kind of a periwinkle blue. I like it a lot. I really do like the color scheme quite a bit. She does have kind of a giant backpack, a nice Autobot symbol painted there on the windshield hood. I don't know what part of the car that technically is at that point. She comes with this gun accessory, and then these little, they kind of look like grenades almost. I feel like it's one of those things like you could put it on the end and then like fire it off as a grenade. The directions also show taking them and kind of using it to extend the barrel of the gun. So you could do something like that. Also, it shows you can take this and kind of put it on here, maybe like a scope for like a small pistol. So there's kind of a lot of play options here, which I kind of like. I think that's really cool. Just a couple little extra accessories here. And you can kind of peg these into each other if you want. If you wanted it to look almost like a magazine. Something like that. So it's kind of neat. It gives you a couple options, just a couple extra accessories there to give you a lot of different configurations. I think that's neat. Then it just pops very simply into her hand. No problem there. She wields it very easily. So that's neat. I like that quite a bit. Putting that off to the side for the moment. I think she looks good. A lot of paint applications that look great. You have the kind of lighter bluish white color. A little bit of red accent as well. Taking a look at that head sculpt, I absolutely love it. One of the main reasons I wanted to pick up the mold, or the toy rather. I've always liked Chromia's design. And I always thought her head sculpt was very cool. And they did a great job. I feel like the lights should, or the eyes should, like, have light piping. They kind of seem like they would, but they don't. But the head sculpt still looks great. Articulation-wise, head's on a ball joint, so you can move that all around side to side. You have a kind of hinge, as well as a swivel here in the shoulder. Bicep swivel, 90 degrees in the elbow. You do not have a wrist swivel because it folds in for the transformation. Waist swivel. Don't we have a waist swivel? No, the top section swivels as part of the transformation, but in this mode you can't actually swivel the waist. But you do have a ball joint in the hip. You have a thigh swivel. You almost have 90 degrees in the knee, but because of this piece, now you could technically rotate that back a little bit if you needed the knee. And then you could just kind of push it up as close as it would get. So you just have to move that piece a little bit. It does hinder articulation a little bit, but it is movable. And then she does have a ankle tilt. Is there anything else in the ankle? Does it spin? No, just the ankle tilt. But it looks good. I like it. Let me fix the camera here. Here we go. So overall, I think that she looks good. Great articulation, great paint applications. Does kind of have a giant backpack, but overall, I like it quite a bit. Gotta compare it to the Power of the Primes mold. It actually is very different. It definitely shares similarities, of course it does, but it's not the same exact mold as I previously thought it was. You can see that the legs are very different with the way this piece is connected. This piece is actually molded in part of the leg. It can't really be moved at all. You move the ankles up into when you kind of transform it, but that is a solid piece there. Oops, don't fall over, Firestorm. Whereas here you swivel this piece around. We'll check that out in a minute with the transformation. Taking a look at the pieces on the back, you can see that they're very different. They have the wings on the side, which are similar, and you have kind of a big screen on the back. But I think the screen on the back this way looks much better than the screen on the back this way. I just think cosmetically it doesn't look as ridiculous. And obviously they went and took the combiner joint out, so she's kind of not as bulky on the back, so she's not as top heavy, which is nice. So it is, I feel, a different enough mold that even if you have the others, you'd want to pick this one up. Now, I understand that they could have just repainted this with like this head and these colors, and that way you'd have an extra limb. And I kind of could see doing that, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad they didn't. I don't know. I feel like if they were going to do that, they should have done it all as part of Power of the Primes. Because as it stands, we have Firestorm, aka Nova Storm, we have Moonracer, and we have Elita 1. So basically you have like a torso and 2 arms, or 2 legs, or an arm and a leg, however you want to mix it up. If they had done Chromia, like what I wanted them to do was to make a new mold for Firestorm that was kind of a pickup truck type vehicle, because that's what Firestorm was in the show. She had like a flatbed truck. And then I wanted them to kind of make like a little cab piece that you could put on to make it into Chromia. That way they could have made a new mold for her, repainted, remolded it into her, then taken the Moonracer and repainted, remolded that into RC. And then we could have had 4 female Autobot limbs with Elita 1 as the core, and had a full female Autobot team combiner. And that would have been great. Since that's already been dashed, there's really no point to shoehorn her in and give you 3 limbs with a female core. Like, you're already not going to realize that full 5 female Autobot team. So what does it matter if it's going to be 3 or 4? I kind of feel like it doesn't really make sense to do that. I feel like they took this mold, they refined it, and they gave us this, which I actually like better. I think it works. She doesn't have as much on the back as far as weight. I mean, it's still kind of bulky, but like I said, I think aesthetically it looks better to have that windshield on the back instead of having it like this. I think taking the combiner port out kind of gives her a slimmer, more streamlined look. And I think the legs look much better with that piece folded around like that instead of having it jut out in the front. So while a lot of the other parts are very similar as far as like the arms, the forearms, the way the hands transform, all those parts are really similar. But I really appreciate that they kind of refined the mold a little bit. It's definitely not the exact same mold. It definitely takes cues from the original, but they definitely improved upon it. And I think it's worth picking up and adding to your collection, especially since these two still look great together, like in a group shot, but they don't look so exactly similar that you don't just have like 3 female Autobots that you can obviously tell are the exact same mold. These are different enough that I think they changed it up and it looks good. So I actually really like what they did, but I wanted to at least compare it for you guys so that you could take a look and know that it's not exactly the same mold. Alright, so getting into the transformation, you can start by coming to these side leg panels and swing them around about 180 degrees. You're going to fold the legs back, and then you're going to kind of bring them in like this. You don't quite peg them into each other. Well, I guess you do, actually. You can go ahead and get that ready. You're going to unpeg these. These actually peg into the side. You can see that there's 2 spots right there, and there's 2 translucent pegs on the side. So you unpeg that. This will accordion out. There's a piece underneath here that flips out, and then this whole thing comes down, and then there are spots on the side here, right here, and there are pegs on the inside. You can see right there. And so it's a little difficult to get this to like slide in. You kind of have to push it past, but then it'll all snap in and it works really well. So there you go. That's the front of the vehicle mode. At this point, you're going to swivel this around 180 degrees. You have to swivel the head around 180 degrees. And then this whole section will flip around, and you can see the head's going to fit into this spot right here. But I will warn you, the directions tell you to really hammer it in there and like push it all the way down in. But I did that and I could not get it out. So you do not want to push it all the way in as deep as you can. I had to unscrew these 3 screws to disassemble the chest so that I could get it out of there and then put it back together. It's easy enough to do. I didn't want to use, because I'm really giving it force, and I'm like, I'm going to snap this thing off, and I do not want to break her head. So I just unscrewed those 3 things. It came out, and then this is just kind of like in a tab section so it can spin around in there. So you want to push it in, but make sure you don't really jam it all the way in, because you want to be able to still lift it out, because it gets snug in there. At this point, you're going to kind of stretch the arms out straight like this. Straight over her head. This section is going to fold up like this, and you can see how that kind of hugs around the waist there. And then you're going to bring this down, and these just kind of go up against there like that, and then you can fold the fist in like that. So bring this down on the side here and fold that in, and there is your new vehicle mode. I think it's very cool. I like it. It's very stylish. Again, really nice as far as the silver paint goes. And I don't think this is supposed to be battle damage, but I really can't tell. It kind of just looks like it's trim. And she really doesn't have a ton of battle damage on her, I gotta be honest. I wonder if they realize people aren't really caring for that, so they're getting away from it. I didn't really notice it in robot mode, but I don't really see any of that like worn metal paint on her at all. So, I don't know. Maybe they're realizing that people aren't super digging that and they're getting away from it. I mean, here's the thing. It doesn't bother me. I know a lot of people it does bother. It doesn't bother me, but if they get rid of it, I'm not going to miss it. So, I like the super angular look to this vehicle. It's very flat and it's very boxy, but I kind of like it a lot. With the weapon, there is storage. You can take these off, and there are little spots right here you can go ahead and peg those into. So you can peg these on right here. And again, the directions show this being like more horizontal because they've jammed the head all the way in, but I'm not doing that. You can take this, peg this back on here, and then it can peg into this little spot up here. Or if you really want, you can peg it into the side here, anywhere. These pegs are all the same, so if you have any of the Battle Masters, they can peg in here, here. There's a spot here, there's a spot here. I don't have one handy, but you guys know how it works by now. You just peg them into any of these holes. You can also use the weaponizers. Any of those can peg into any of these little spots. They're all the same size peg hole there. I also wanted to show off with the vehicle mode of the Power of the Primes mold. And like I said, you can tell it's definitely different. But like I said, definitely it shares components, like they transform very similarly here in the back. But I think I like the new one a lot better. I like the long window, the long windshield. And it's just a little bit more boxy and stylized. Like this definitely looks like a weird futuristic car, whereas this just kind of, I don't really know. You can really see the torso of the Autobot robot mode there. And I feel like even though it's the same thing, the robot torso is literally right there, you don't notice it as much. It doesn't stick up as much. So I don't know. They're both fine, but I definitely think I like the new one better. So that's that. But yeah, I think they've done a good job with this new like reworking of this mold. I really like Chromia a lot more than I expected to. I thought it was just going to be the same mold again, and they just kind of, unscrewed and took out the Combiner War piece, but they actually took the existing mold, reworked a little bit, improved some of the things that didn't work, and they built upon it and gave us something new, which I really, really appreciate. I think it's kind of a more refined, better version of that mold, which was already all right to begin with, but they tweaked it a little and they gave us something that's even better, and I like that quite a lot. Love the color scheme. I think the design is fantastic. The head sculpt is great. And I definitely think you guys should pick this up. It would have been very easy for them to just pop a new head on the existing mold, repaint it, and just slap it in a box again. They've done it before. They'll do it again. It would have been very easy for them to do it here. But I really applaud what they did. They gave us a great figure, and I definitely think if you're passing on it initially, if you've already kind of written it off, I think it deserves another look on your part, and definitely someone you should add to your collection. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks so much for watching.